Hello, I'm Sandy Williams, and thank you for joining me in this week's segment on social justice within the workplace. Today's investigative report focuses on technical services within library and information sciences. We will be discussing Indigenous decolonization within information centers. The Bureau of Indian Affairs reports there are currently 573 federally recognized Native American tribes in the United States. The recognition from the United States can mean many different things for Indigenous peoples. Having to rely on this acknowledgement from the colonizing forces that have broken so many treaties is problematic to say the least. However, options are few for the many that are struggling to build and maintain tribal sovereignty, an inherent Aboriginal right. The current list of Indian tribes confirms their eligibility for funding and services from the BIA. In return, these resources can assist Native communities to regain self-determination. Many tribes are also being threatened with dying languages as elders pass taking their native tongue with them. Others are still battling stereotypes and the digital divide that is common to reservations. Native communities are fighting for their survival, and community resources, such as information centers, hold an empowering position to support the cause. Information centers and those that work within can support Indigenous decolonization through their collection development, collaboration efforts, and accessibility to archives. Library and information specialists will benefit in familiarizing themselves with the culture and history of the community being served. Joseph Ides, 2018, asked practitioners if they are aware of research and literary works published by Native authors. Do the resources in your library reflect the community? Can Indigenous and Native children see themselves in the materials available in your collection? Warniak 2014 also reflects on collection development, stressing that opportunities exist in which information specialists can combat harmful stereotypes by selecting, exhibiting, and exposing materials that do not further disenfranchise Native peoples. For example, please see this display that has been recently shown at the Charleston Library Society in South Carolina, a display of Indigenous titles that combat stereotypes, create interest, and provide accessibility. Alternatively, collections should reflect records that speak to the culture, accomplishments, and interests of Indigenous communities. Warniak also points to the institution itself, stating for the library to really understand the community needs, it should learn the community stories so that it may provide more meaningful and desirable services. Perhaps a unique consideration when examining materials for Native American history collection development are those relating to oral histories. Oral histories are a means of preserving Indigenous culture and languages. Through digitization efforts, archival institutions can provide this invaluable resource to patrons. By examining the unique challenges and concerns that surround Native American archives, Jennifer O'Neill expands upon other ways collaborations are impacting within this field, stressing the initiative that tribal communities and archivists within federal, state, and local entities work collaboratively together. O'Neill urges the establishment of archives within tribal communities as a means of self-determination and sovereignty. O'Neill also writes on the intricacies of Native and non-Native relationships within archival institutions. Her article recently points out a pressing issue within Native archives, that Native American history can change by the hands of non-Native historians and archivists. Collaboration can lessen these concerns and ensure healthy conversations between all interested parties. Collaboration can drive attention to collections, stimulate interest in cultural agencies, and create programs and services that may not be achieved when developing alone. Gorman 2015 expands, stating, quote, "We have a duty to preserve and transmit all these records, a duty that obviously must depend on a pooling of work in local, regional, national, and international efforts of all kinds," unquote. Collaboration between information professionals and local patrons, tribal members, and elders is important to continue the dialogue between all parties. For the library to really understand the community needs, it should learn the community stories that would increase its capacity for providing relevant and meaningful service. Digitization can provide outlets for research and preservation, which is vitally important to the disenfranchised Indigenous peoples of this country. Digital repatriation is also a widely discussed topic within Indigenous studies. The return of cultural heritage items in some type of digital format to the communities from which they originated. And continuing the discussion of native language survival, digitization provides resources for present and future generations to ensure no native languages are lost. In closing, providing access to native archives creates interest, curiosity, and preservation of cultural knowledge. Collaboration builds relationships that will foster important and meaningful records and resources. In collection development, collections should represent the community, and they should work towards highlighting the achievements of Native peoples instead of preserving them to a painted history filled with stereotypes and misinformation. Information centers can assist in efforts towards decolonizing Native North American history by creating Native archives, understanding the unique federal and tribal influences that impact Indigenous communities, and being sensitive to the culture and lifeways of Native nations. Through collaboration, access, and collection development, information centers can help Native communities reclaim control of their history, culture, and heritage. Thank you for joining me this week, and stay tuned for our next segment to follow. I'm Sandy Williams, and we'll see you next week.